Welcome back to Market Headlines. Other than announcing current Indonesia's trade surplus, Statistic Indonesia also updated that Indonesia's 2019 ICT Development Index, as Information and Communications Technologies Development Indicator, 2019 index reached 5.32, went up from a 5.07 in 2018. The ICT Development Index is an index based on the United Nations International Telecommunications Union that is agreed for information and communication technologies indicators. This means it is a valuable tool for benchmarking the most important indicators for measuring the information society.
Yang pada tahun 2019 nilainya adalah 5,32, berarti mengalami peningkatan atau perbaikan dibandingkan tahun 2018, dan seluruh metode dari indeks pembangunan TIK ini sudah mengacu kepada guidance yang dikembangkan oleh International Telecommunication Union atau ITU pada tahun 2008.
ICT index scale is in the range of 0 to 10. The higher the index value, the faster the ICT development in a region is. Statistic Indonesia recorded that Indonesia's 2019 ICT Development Index reached 5.32, and an increase compared to ICT index in 2018 of 5.07. The ICT index development is based on the 11 ICT indicators. It grouped into 3 clusters: access, use, and skills. Access and infrastructure reflects that the ICT readiness. In terms of ICT readiness, Indonesia reached the index of 5.53. The province with the highest ICT index in 2019 was Jakarta, namely 7.31. Meanwhile, the province with the lowest ICT index was Papua, namely 3.33. From all sources, IDX Channel. How many times in a day you open Google today, or how many times you open Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp today? Well, we're rarely aware about that, but information and communications technologies takes a big part of our lives. Information and communications technology, or ICT, continues to spread throughout the world, and more people have access to the internet and its wealth of information and applications. And to measure how far ICT has grown so far, there is an index so-called as ICT Development Index. And the index is really important since it can monitor developments in information and communications technology within country and over time. And before we go further, I would like to explain you the main objectives of the index first. So let's take a look through the next graphic. Here it is through your screen. We can see the main objectives of these index. First of all, it's to portray the level and evolutions over time of ICT development within the country. And then the second one is that to track the progress in ICT development in regions. And the third one is that to diagnose digital divide, which is differences between regions in terms of their level on ICT development. And the last one is that to find developments, potentials of the ICT itself within the country. And yes, calls for benchmarking information society developments have been made at the international level during the World Summit on the Information Society in 2003. And Indonesia is part of that as well. By referring to the methodology from the International Telecommunications Union, Statistic Indonesia, or BPS, calculates ICT Development Index at the national and provincial levels. And the ICT Development Index is in the range of 0 to 10. The higher the index value, the faster the ICT development in a region is. So for example, South Korea has the index of 8.45. Means that the country has high communications and computations technologically driven. But how about Indonesia? Let's see in the next graphic. Here it is through your screen. We can see Indonesia's ICT Development Index. We can see the spread of 2017 to 2018, and the last one we gathered the data from 2019. In 2017, when we talk about the ICT Development Index, Indonesia had 4.9, and moving on to 2018, Indonesia had 5.07, and meanwhile in 2019, this is the latest data that gathered from the Statistic Indonesia, Indonesia had the ICT Development Index of 5.32. And the province with the highest ICT Development Index in 2019 is Jakarta. And Jakarta has the index of 7.31. Meanwhile, the province with the lowest ICT Development Index was in Papua with 3.33. And it is necessary to boost the ICT Development Index. Digitalization has emerged as the cornerstone of the future economy, and it is imperative for companies to evolve business models, process, and technological to keep the pace of the dynamic market where many players are already leveraging the latest technologies. And for instance, cloud, big data, artificial intelligence, and so on. This can improve and transform businesses, and of course, it brings significant impact to the economy. And there are stages of ICT Development Index, or we can call it as sub-indexes. So what are those? Let's see it through the next graphic. Yes, through your screen, we can see the sub-indexes, or we can call it as well as the stages. So the first stage, we can see the ICT readiness. It's reflecting the level of network infrastructure and access to the ICTs. And moving on to the second stage, we got ICT intensity, which is reflecting the level of use of ICT in the society. And the stage 3, it's about the ICT impact, which is reflecting the outcome of more efficient and effective ICT use in one region. And based on this conceptual framework, the ICT index is divided into the following 3 sub-indexes. And first, access sub-index is the sub-index captures ICT readiness and includes 5 infrastructure and access indicators, which are fixed telephone subscriptions, mobile cellular telephone subscriptions, international internet bandwidth per internet user, a household with a computer, and household with the internet access. And the second one is that the sub-index. A sub-index that captures ICT intensity and includes 3 intensity and usage indicator, which are individuals using the internet, fixed broadband subscriptions, and mobile broadband subscriptions. And the third one is that skills sub-index. This sub-index seeks to capture capabilities or skills which are important for ICTs. It includes 3 proxy indicators, years of schooling, gross secondary enrollment, and gross tertiary enrollment. Each sub-index has its scale as well. So where is Indonesia stands? So let's see through the next graphic. Here it is. We can see Indonesia's ICT development sub-indexes. First of all, we can see the first stage, which is the ICT readiness. When we talk about access and infrastructure, Indonesia had the index of 5.53. And then moving on to the second stage, which is the ICT intensity, which is the use of the ICT itself in Indonesia, the index is in level of 4.85. And then moving on to the third sub-index, which is ICT impact, which is the outcome of the ICT itself in the within the country. Indonesia had a 5.48. And in the analysis, the 3 components can be considered apart, while at the same time, they are closely linked. So without ICT infrastructure and access, there is no ICT utility. And having access to ICT infrastructure is thus always a prerequisite of the subsequent use. And based on the data, among 3 sub-indexes, Indonesia has the highest index on ICT impact. This is a good sign, since ICT impact indicators can be only computed once in a statistical measurement of ICT infrastructure, access, and particular ICT use is in place. Therefore, it means that Indonesia's capability or skills in using technology is growing. ICT impact largely depends on the availability of skill and knowledge and the capability to use ICT efficiently and effectively. And yes, viewers, Indonesia has the largest and fastest growing ICT market in Southeast Asia and presents an enticing opportunity for investors. On balance, I'm optimistic about the ability of Indonesia to strive better ICT index. And yes, stay with us because market headlines will be right back after this quick break.